Hey everyone, Jared from Raceseng here, and today we're super excited because we are going to be doing an install on our new R-Lock for the 2022 Plus GR86 and BRZ platforms. So the Raceseng R-Lock for the 2022 Plus models is our solution to allow you to use any of the Raceseng shift knobs on your vehicle. For installation, I'm going to quick go over the tools you're going to need. The first thing you'll need is a plastic pry tool to get your plastic interior piece up around the shift boot without damaging it. Next, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the two screws that you're going to be uncovering. After that, you'll need circlip pliers. These are to get the factory R-Lock off of your shifter arm and put ours onto your shifter arm. Then to install your Raceseng shift knob, you're gonna need a 15mm wrench and a 4mm Allen wrench. Or you could use our shift knob installation tool. Now that you got all your tools ready, you can go ahead and just make sure you have everything you need with your R-Lock. In your box will be the R-Lock itself, a spring retainer right here, and we're also going to include an extra circlip for the top, just in case the one that you took off gets bent and is not going to fit properly. So for the first step, you're just going to want to grab your plastic pry tool, and then you're going to go down to the center console and remove the plastic below your climate control switches. So the first thing you want to do, if you're like me, you probably parked it in first gear, you want to move that back and out of your way. Then you just take your pry tool, get it underneath right here. A gentle twist and pull will get the tab out. You can see it's come out a little bit already. Go over the other side and repeat that same thing, and you can see the whole thing is now tilted up. And then just get to the center. You can get your fingers in there, and that's it. You can see the 4 tabs right here. You're not going to break it. That's how it's meant to come out. Once you've done that, you will have exposed the 2 Phillips head screws, one on either side. Go ahead, grab your Phillips head and remove the 2 screws. Now you can go back to your plastic pry tool, and you're going to be removing from here and here this entire section that comes back around the shift boot. So first you can get in this crack right over here between the lower and upper piece, and just get in there with your tool and twist. And you can see I have these clips separated now. You're going to repeat the same thing on this side. Get it in there, just gently twist. And then once you have that, you can walk it around the back. This side needs a little more love. I'm going to walk it forward. Try to get all the clips off. It's always scary doing this because you feel like you're breaking something. You will also need to pop off the e-brake. There we go. So the e-brake just comes down the console on this side, and you can pry that out. There's just 2 quick tabs to pop off of there, and then you'll be able to get this free. Once you do that, you can just follow these lines here, get down to the corner, and just get a tight grab like that. And then those 2 tabs up at the top will pop out. And you can see there's a lot of tabs around the bottom there that you need to break free. Now that the bezel is removed from around the outside of the shift boot, you can see that there's another plastic piece that the shift boot is actually attached into. You won't need the plastic pry tool for this. You'll be able to get your fingers around it. And there's just clips all around, more pop clips that you'll be able to just pop out. You can see right here, here, right here. Same thing on the other side. And there you have it. You have got your boot completely removed. Next, you're just going to want to remove your existing shift knob, and then we'll have access to what we need on the top of the reverse lockout. So the shift knob is easy enough to remove. You basically just unscrew it, comes off real nice. Set that aside. Now you can go ahead and turn your boot inside out. Just be careful. Now there is no zip tie or anything holding this on. On these cars it just stretches around and then is held in place by this taper. So you can just remove that just like that, set it aside. And now we're ready to get the reverse lockout removed. All right, now that we're ready to remove the R-lock, you're gonna need your circlip pliers. Now there's a couple notes to take here. When you remove this circlip, it can be stretched easily and it'll remove some of the springiness, and when you go to install the new R-lock, it won't lock into the groove on the shifter arm. So if you can, try to preserve that by not stretching it too far. If you do overstretch it, we are including a new one, and that's exactly why. But the second note to make about this is that once you remove this, there is a spring inside here that is what returns your R-lock to the down position. This circlip is what's holding the tension on the spring. So when you remove that, you're going to want to have your hand around this so that the parts don't go flying. But you should be able to encapsulate that in your hand and gently relieve the spring pressure. Make sure you don't lose anything. So go ahead and get your circlip pliers in the holes. I'm going to use my other hand and just kind of hold the spring retention piece down. You can see I got my clip there, and then this will come up and off. This is your spring retainer. Your spring, you're going to want to save these. We do include a new retainer with your new R-lock, but be careful, there's a lot of grease on here from the internals. Once that's removed, your R-lock just comes right off. You'll just need to pop this boot down and around. No big deal there. It just locks on to the bottom, and that's it. We're now ready to install the Raceseng R-lock onto your shifter arm. There's a couple notes here. Obviously, the Raceseng logo is to face towards you, and this is the piece that actually locks you out of the reverse gear when you're not lifting up on this. So that actually needs to face the driver's seat. You can't put it on any other way because the insides are keyed, and this needs to be in the correct position to lock you out of reverse. On our R-lock, because it's made of metal, we do have an O-ring around the bottom to prevent any rattling or NVH. And then on the new spring retainer, this is also metal, and we also included an O-ring on there for the same reason. So before you install, you just want to inspect, and this is a new car, so there's plenty of grease still on here. Make sure that this is well greased, and you should be problem-free for a very long time. So it will only slide on in one direction. Down here, lower, is actually where it is keyed. Third note, this is also very important. Right here, it's hard to see, but it's under the grease. There's an O-ring there. That's actually very important when you release your R-lock and it is pulled back down. This is what will keep it from making any rattling or noises. All you need to do is slip it over, make sure it is in the proper orientation, put your boot around the bottom. You can see it is locked onto the keyways of the shifter arm, so you can't spin this at all. You can then grab your spring, slip it over the top. Your spring retainer will sit right inside the spring just like so, and everything will slide down into place. Now you can grab your circlip. Luckily, mine stayed on the pliers, so if you need to use the new one, that's no problem. Just get it on your pliers. Again, try not to stretch this more than you need to. It is a little bit tricky. Okay. It's not actually in yet, but get my fingers in there. And there you go. I might have made that look a little easier than it should be, but I got lucky. So I'm just going to take the pry tool to hold down the spring retainer and make sure that this clip is fully seated into the groove on the shifter arm. That way you can be sure it's not going to come loose in the future, and there you have it. If it returns to the down position, and you can go ahead now and just check and make sure that it is going to go into reverse and that it will block reverse when it's down. And it looks like we're all good. So at this point, the installation of the Raceseng R-Lock is done, and you can go ahead and put back all of your plastic trim pieces in the reverse order that you took them off. Okay, so at this point, if you're installing your factory shift knob back on, all you need to do is just screw it on and align your engraving, and you're good to go. This particular car, we are going to be installing one of our Stratos shift knobs, so we're going to go ahead and take off this OEM knob, and I'm just going to real quick show you how to install our adapter system and the Stratos knob. All right, so we have our Raceseng shift knob here. In your box, you'll have your shift knob in your protective bag, and the important part right now is your threaded adapter for this vehicle. So on here, you will need to apply a small dab of blue Loctite. Important that it's blue. You don't want anything permanent. This is just to keep it in place, and so that when you remove your shift knob or make adjustments, this will stay on the shifter arm and not come off with the shift knob. So in your car, obviously be very careful with this. You don't want to get it on any of the Alcantara or suede seats or anything, but you only need a small amount on the shifter arm threads. Just a small dab, that's all it takes. We'll keep that outside the car. Now you can take your threaded adapter, get that screwed on by hand to start. Get it all the way down there. Now this is important. You're going to want to take a 15 mil or one of our shift knob tools and tighten this down good and tight. You don't want to overdo it, but definitely make it tighter than you can make the shift knob by hand. That's important. Now you're going to want to let the blue Loctite set up to be safe about 10 to 15 minutes.
15 minutes later.
So now that your blue Loctite is set up, you're going to want to take your Allen key and run this screw all the way in until it stops. This is the alignment screw for your shift gate engraving. So as a baseline, you want to run it all the way to the bottom. Then you can install your Raceseng shift knob. In this case, we have the Stratos black mat with an Alcantara cover. It's going to match the seats in here perfectly. So as you can see, it's bottomed out on the adapter and the engraving is basically upside down. So this needs to be turned out approximately a half a turn. So you're going to want to remove the shift knob. This does take some guesswork, and even after doing this a bunch of times, this can be a little tricky. But you basically want to take your Allen key and clock it approximately the amount that you need the shift knob to move. So I turned it 180 degrees, and now we'll give it another try and see where we land. So you can see here the engraving bottomed out and it's not quite straight, but because the screw has a little bit of play, what you want to do is just grab it and kind of just torque it. Now it's still not quite straight, so we're not quite there yet. You can see the adapter stayed on the car, so that is a good sign. I'm just going to turn this back in just a hair to get it exactly where we need it. And that is pretty darn perfect. And now you are all done and ready to go. completes the 2022 GR86 and BRZ R-Lock install. It's pretty easy, and now you can fit any Raceseng shift knob. Hopefully when you picked up your R-Lock, you also picked up one of our shift knobs. If not, head over to raceseng.com and get yourself one. You won't regret it.